Let's start our chapter that is coal and petroleum. So in this chapter, we'll discuss about the types of natural resources. Then we will discuss fossil fuels, in which we will discuss about coal, petroleum, and natural gas. And at last, we'll discuss about petrochemicals. So let's start with this chapter. See, students, in our everyday life, we use a large number of materials for our basic needs, right? And the materials which satisfy our needs are termed as resources, right? So, some of the materials which we use, they are found in nature, they are present in nature, they are obtained from nature, whereas others are man-made. They are made by humans, created by humans. Say, for instance, if we talk about air, water, soil, sunlight, coal, petroleum, minerals, these are all obtained from nature, so they are called as natural resources. On the other hand, if we look at plastics, fibers, synthetic fibers, drugs, explosives, they are all man made materials. Now, anything in the environment which can be used, which satisfy our needs, that is called a resource, right? And resources can be natural or man made. Let's talk about natural resources. All the natural resources can be classified into two main groups. One is inexhaustible natural resources, and the other is exhaustible natural resources. Now, let's talk about inexhaustible natural resources. See, students, the term inexhaustible, that means something which cannot be used completely. So, those natural resources which are present in unlimited quantity in nature and are not likely to be exhausted by human activities, that are termed inexhaustible natural resources. If we take the example of inexhaustible natural resources, we have sunlight, air, water. See, there is a never ending supply of inexhaustible resources in nature. That is why I told you that the term means which cannot be used completely, because it is present in never ending supply, it's present in unlimited quantity, so which it cannot be used completely, because we are always left with these resources, right? Because they are unlimited, and these resources, they can be used again and again, they last forever. So these are inexhaustible resources, okay? Now, the term exhaustible, that means something which can be used up completely, so that nothing is left behind. So those resources which are present in a limited quantity, then they can be used completely, right? So that is the term exhaustible. So those resources which are present in a limited quantity in nature and can be exhausted by human activities, those are called exhaustible natural resources. If we take the example, we are having coal, petroleum, natural gas, minerals, foresters, wildlife. These are all natural resources, but they are exhaustible ones because they do not last forever. They are in limited quantity. They can get exhausted. So, in this chapter, we will study some exhaustible sources of energy. Like we are going to study coal, petroleum, natural resources. These are all exhaustible sources of energy. In fact, these are also called non renewable sources of energy. Non renewable, that means something which cannot get renewed, which can get exhausted. So these coal, petroleum, and natural gas which we discuss in this chapter, they are non renewable, they are exhaustible sources of energy, okay? Why? Because all the coal, petroleum, and natural gas, they are present under the earth, and when they will get used up, they'll get exhausted, then no more supply of these fuels will be available in the near future. That is why the term is non-renewable. Term is exhaustible. Okay. But before we go further, we should know the meaning of the term fossil. See, students, if we say fossils, fossils are actually the remains of prehistoric plants and animals buried under the earth millions of years ago, right? So, basically, fossil is the prehistoric remains. Okay. Now, when we talk about fossil fuels, these are the natural fuels that have formed from the remains of living organisms buried under the earth long, long ago. Okay, so coal, petroleum, natural gases, these are all fossil fuels. Why they are called fossil fuels? Because they were formed by the decomposition of the remains of prehistoric plants and animals. That means they are formed by the decomposition of the fossils. Fossil is the prehistoric remains now. So basically, this coal, petroleum, natural gas, they are called fossil fuels because they are formed by the decomposition of the remains of plants and animals, decomposition of the remains of fossils that are buried under the earth long, long ago. Okay, so fossil fuels again are exhaustible natural resources because once all the fossil fuels are used up, they will be gone forever. They do not last forever. I hope this is clear. Okay, now how fossil fuels were formed. So, fossil fuels were formed from the dead remains of living organisms, plants, animals buried under the earth millions of years ago. Actually, this was happened like plants and animals which died millions of years ago, they were gradually buried deep in the earth and got covered with sediments. They got covered with mud, sand, okay, and now they are away from the reach of air. It means deep under the earth, there's the absence of air, there's no air present, and the chemical effects take place. Chemical effects of heat, pressure, bacteria. They converted the buried remains of plants and animals into fossil fuels, into coal, into petroleum, into natural gas. So, buried means of large land plants were converted into coal, whereas the tiny marine plants and animals got converted into petroleum and natural gas. Now, we'll discuss these fossil fuels, coal, petroleum, and natural gas in detail, but we'll discuss that in the next lecture. Thank you.